Firstly, apologies for Councillor Trevor. First item on the agenda is the finance summary for the month, and that's to be presented by Simon. Oh, sorry, I should have mentioned, first of all, we've got one conflict of interest that's been notified for the meeting next week, and that's Councillor McPhee, item G3, and you're intending to leave the room for that item. Over to you, Simon. Okay, so that's item G2, Councillor Haven. Okay, that's it. So over to you, Simon.
Morning, councillors. Financial summary at the 1st of February 2022. Recurrent revenue is largely on track, despite with highlighting that we've now have 7 contracts that are either settled or unconditional throughout the region, so that income will exceed budget this year. In terms of recurrent revenue, this balance at the moment is in materials and services and is around the non-capital projects. We expect this spend will increase in the next 5 months. A lot of the spend in this area is associated with the capital project delivery, which escalates in the second half of the year, so that variance will tighten as months roll on. Capital expenditure, $34.3 million year to date, total budget of $93.4. Just one item worth highlighting, in the capital grant space, we will be seeking an extension of time on the West Queensland Line 3 for the Area Heads recreational facility. Cash as at reporting date were $139.1 million, and just a note, even though the rates levy has now been struck for the second half of the year, the outstanding balance prior to that was $3.2 million or 3.6%, so a great outcome there. That's all for the finance report.
No questions? Okay, thanks, Simon. Councillors, we've got 4 governance items on the agenda, and they'll all be presented by Christine.
Councillors, item G1 is in relation to the Audit and Risk Management Committee minutes. The Audit and Risk Committee met on the 7th of October 2021, and the minutes are attached for Council's information. The recommendation is that the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on 7 October 2021 be received and noted. Questions? The next item is item G2. This is in regard to leases for the Bundaberg Racecourse. Councils will be aware that Council is a trustee of the Bundaberg Racecourse, which is at 20 Maynard Street in Avenel Heights. The property has been used by the Bundaberg Greyhound Racing Club and the Bundaberg Race Club for some time under an MOU arrangement, in line with Council's corporate plan to formalise tenure arrangements throughout the region. It's proposed that a lease be entered into with the Greyhound Club and the Race Club. The terms of the lease are for a 5-year term with no options. Rent is proposed to be at the community rate, with all other terms of the lease being on Council's standard terms. It is proposed that Council grants to the clubs a concession of 50% on sewerage pedestal charges in each tenant's lease area, and 6,000 kilolitres of water per annum. given that it's a disposal of property, it's proposed that the exception contained in section 2361B2 of the local government regulation be applied to this matter. And the recommendation is that council apply the exception contained in section 2361B2 of the local government regulation. Number 2, that the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a lease to the Bundaberg Greyhound Racing Club Incorporated and a lease to the Bundaberg Race Club Incorporated for parts of the Bundaberg Racecourse for an initial term of 5 years. Part 3, pursuant to section 1221 of the local government regulation, council grants the Bundaberg Greyhound Racing Club Inc. and the Bundaberg Race Club Incorporated 6,000 kilolitres of water per financial year each, and free consumption charges on the condition that the allowance be provided to one water meter, and that the allowance be used only for water on the racecourse site, and the club's developed and implemented water efficiency management plan. And 4, pursuant to section 1221 of the local government regulation, council grants a 50% concession on sewerage pedestal charges within the lease area. Any questions? Councillor Mitchell? Sorry, McPhee?
Is there a time that they'll need to have that water management efficiency plan done by?
I might just defer to Gavin, who's been talking to Rachel.
Mr. Chair, the intention, Councillor McPhee, is that as soon as the lease is executed, we will start work with them on looking at that, about how they can do it. I mean, they've already done some work now based on their previous water consumption, with the intention to try to wind that back significantly. So, and there's some track upgrade work that's going to happen once this is done as well, which might reduce their water consumption. So they've already done some work, and we're working with them. We've been providing some advice via venues facilities. They've also looked at the pipe sizes and the meter sizes as well. So there's a bit of work on it. It'll just be a case of formalising that into a document. So.
Thank you.
And just questions probably directed to Gavin. The issues that they had with the construction of the new stables there, is there any impact on the lease as far as that goes, or have those issues been resolved?
Chair, separate item from this, a capital improvement, so not lease specific related. And one of the things, the only relationship between that and the lease is that the fees that are obtained from anyone who uses it are retained by the race club. But I think we're working through it. So I know our major projects staff have been out on site and met directly with them and Racing Queensland just to talk through the issues. From our perspective, they were built to a standard that the construction requirements were provided to us by Racing Queensland, so we believe that they're compliant. There might be there's some concerns have been raised, I think, on behalf of a particular trainer, but we're working through that. We don't think it's going to be a drop dead issue.
Thank you.
The next item is item. Item G3 is in relation to sale of part of Native Park to East Bundaberg Developments Proprietary Limited as trustee. Council is the freehold owner of Native Park, which is at 7 Olsen Street, East Bundaberg. Council officers identified an encroachment of an adjoining landowner's infrastructure onto that property. Council officers have been working with the adjoining landowner to remedy the breach, and a way of remedying that breach is to negotiate the sale of a small portion of the property which their infrastructure is situated on. The portion of the property with the encroachment is proposed to be subdivided off and sold to the adjoining owner for market value. Given that it's a sale to the adjoining owner, the disposal exception contained in section 2361C4 is able to be applied under the local government regulation, as it's a sale to an adjoining owner. Given the size of the land, it's probably not appropriate for it to go to tender, given it's a smaller size, and that there's no other adjoining owners that wish to acquire that property. The recommendation is that council apply the exception contained in section 2361C4 of the local government regulation to the disposal of a portion of that property, and that the CEO be authorised to enter into a contract of sale with the buyers and attend to all items required to finalise that sale. Questions? No?
Just get Councillor McPhee back in the room.
The next item, councillors, is item G4, which is in relation to a sale of Lot 9 on SP 311608 at the Bundaberg Regional Aviation and Aerospace Precinct. Council is the freehold owner of this parcel, and it's previously been resolved to sell the lot as it's surplus to council's needs. It was previously offered for tender. Council's now received an offer on that lot to be purchased, and it is for market value. Therefore, the recommendation to council is that council apply the exception contained in section 2361AI of the local government regulation to the disposal of lot 9, and that the chief executive officer be authorised to enter into a contract of sale with the buyer and attend to all items required to finalise that sale. Questions? No?
Thanks, Christine. Councillors, item H1 is a proposed renewal of an existing specialised supplier arrangement with Dormacarba for maintenance of automatic doors throughout our facilities and across the region. It's Dormacarba as the company that the arrangement would be with, but they provide the service via a local contractor. The recommendation is that we enter into a specialised supply arrangement under section 235B of the local government regulation, with the arrangement being in place for 3 years. Any questions? Moving on to development assessment, item L1.
Councillors, the report for you today is essentially the same report that was presented to the December meeting, so I won't go over the details of the proposal again. The change that has occurred since is that you'll see as a final attachment to the report, the applicant has submitted further information following his presentation at a consultation day, and that material in summary tries to build further the case for support of the proposal, highlighting the need for the facility, the impracticality of the 400 metre setback to adjoining residences, and the fact that council have approved other facilities elsewhere. And then there's a bit of going through some of the strategic framework elements of the planning scheme, looking for elements that support the proposal. Having considered that material, the officers agree that there is a need for this facility in this location, but that the applicant hasn't demonstrated that that need solely relates to this site, and that the need that's demonstrated is, in our view, not sufficient to overcome the substantial conflicts with the planning scheme, not the least of which the amenity impacts that this use would create by being right next door to residential properties. For that basis, our recommendation remains unchanged, and it's recommended for refusal for the reasons detailed in the report.
Thanks, Councillor McPhee. Any questions? No? Moving on to development assessment, item L2. This is in relation to a sale of Lot 9 on SP 311608 at the Bundaberg Regional Aviation and Aerospace Precinct. Council is the freehold owner of this parcel, and it's proposed to renewal of an existing specialised supplier arrangement with Dormacarba for maintenance of automatic doors throughout our facilities and across the region. The recommendation is that we enter into a specialised supply arrangement under section 235B of the local government regulation, with the arrangement being in place for 3 years. Any questions? Thanks, Michael. Any questions, councillors? No, thanks, Michael. So the next section of the agenda is Community and Cultural Services. We've got 3 lease matters that are going to be presented by Christine.
Item 01 is in relation to a lease renewal at the airport to EBCO Queensland Proprietary Limited. They've been the tenant at the site presently under an existing lease arrangement which is due to expire on the 28th of February 2022. It's proposed that a further lease be entered into with the company for a further term of 5 years with an additional 1 year, 1 by 5 year option. The rent is proposed to be for market value, and therefore it's the recommendation to council is that the council apply the exception contained in section 2361C3 of the local government regulation, given that it's a renewal of a lease to an existing tenant, and that the chief executive officer be authorised to enter into a lease with EBCO Queensland Proprietary Limited for the lease area, which is CJ, for an initial term of 5 years with a further 5 year option. Questions? Councillors, item 02 is similar in nature. It's another lease renewal at the airport to Nutbush Operations Proprietary Limited. This lease is currently due to expire on the 30th of June 2022, and the tenant is wishing to renew their lease. It is proposed that a new lease be entered into with them for a further term of 5 years, and providing them with an option of a further 5 years. Again, rent will be for market value, and all the terms of the lease will be on council standard terms. Therefore, the recommendation is that council apply the exception contained in section 2361C3 of the local government regulation, and that chief executive officer be authorised to enter into a lease with Nutbush Operations Proprietary Limited for their lease area, which is AG, for an initial term of 5 years with a further 5 year option. Questions? Councillors, the next item is 03, which is a lease renewal for the Winfield Rural Fire Brigade. The lease is actually to the state of Queensland, and it will be represented by the Department of Community Safety on behalf of the Winfield Rural Fire Brigade. Their lease is due to expire on the 11th of December this year, and the tenant would like to begin the process to renew their lease as soon as possible. Given that it's a freehold property, it's proposed that the lease a new lease be entered into for a term of 10 years with a further 10 year option. The recommendation to council is that council apply the exception contained in section 2361BI